There are different levels of consciousness too, you know, I mean,
so this is kind of like the superego that Jung talks about, where we perceive our ego, but there's also a greater reality. There's a greater reality to which we are part, and that greater reality is something that we can't really understand in our own little egos, but it's something that comes into us through our subconscious.
you know, that's an excellent idea, and that would solve the problem, because, you know, maybe that's why other living creatures on our planet, for example, that seem to have all different sorts of ways of living and existing, and their egos are in very different constructions. You know, maybe they're experiencing reality in a much, much different way than we are, but in human beings, obviously, the regular ego formed as an adaptation, possibly, to allow us to experience a singular continuity. And then the superego that you mentioned is, you know, this greater reality encompassing a lot more possibilities, but we don't experience it on a regular daily basis because otherwise we wouldn't be able to get through the day, you know? So, an adaptation in our species to shut down everything else except this, you know, singular line of consciousness is a good adaptation to make our practical lives work, you know, but other animals might not be experiencing that. I mean, they might be experiencing, you know, this greater reality, you know. And then the idea that you just mentioned also explains all of religion and psychic people, too. Because psychic people could be people who have somehow counteracted the adaptation, and they are able to open themselves to the subconscious more often than regular people do just when they're dreaming or whatever, and when they're sleeping. And then, of course, it accounts for all of human religion, too, because human religion, in one sense, is nothing but human beings trying to get back to the pre-ego adaptation state, right?
Well, I was going to say maybe when we say that we are in touch with God or in touch with some greater reality, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about being in touch with all the universes, all the possible universes. It gives me a little bit of optimism because it implies that there are so many possibilities for us. There are so many possibilities for us and the whole world, you know, that we're only limited by our own ability to imagine the possibilities.
Yeah, well, that's where the whole entire New Age spiritual movement and neurolinguistic programming people from the late 20th century come from. Some people get mixed up into, oh, well, it's just simple. You know, it's just a simple thing. All you have to do is think positively, and then, as if by magic, you know, more and more positive outcomes occur in the future, when that's not how it happens, and that's not the human condition. I read like the secret desk calendar the other day, and I was like, you know,
Yeah, I think
that's very insulting.
If you've read the desk calendar, it's probably equivalent, just as good as reading the book.
I feel irritated when, you know.
Yeah, people boil these things down to pop philosophy.
To the most simplistic of pop philosophies. Having good intentions, though. I mean, you know, I'm not saying that they shouldn't publish those books or people shouldn't say their ideas. I mean, of course they should. People should have the freedom to write about whatever they want. And it is possible to introduce people who are suffering to those ideas about changing one's future to make it more positive. And I'm, you know, I'm a good example of that, you know. I mean, my life has improved. I'm never, ever going to say that my idea about the corner moment is fact, you know. That would be completely ridiculous. I don't have any proof or anything. It's just that it's, since after I came up with it, certain parts of it started being spoken about on a regular basis by the scientific community, and that kind of just got me thinking that, well, you know, human brains and human minds are objects located in reality, so it makes sense that they should come up with accurate ideas about reality because of the concept of self-similarity from fractal geometry. You know, a teeny tiny person, or as being really teeny tiny compared to the greater universe, it makes sense that, you know, a portion of the universe should contain traits of the universe as a whole, based on self-similarity. So that's why I just think that, well, you know, I think that everybody's idea, you know, fractal geometry or whatever, has a little bit of truth to it because of self-similarity.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the Still Blue Water Fly.